There is a specific, insidious type of failure that disguises itself as virtue. It is a silent, creeping rot that eats away at the foundation of a man's respect, disguised as kindness, disguised as loyalty, disguised as simply being there. When a person is always available, they believe they are building a reputation of reliability. They operate under the delusion that availability is a currency that buys love, or, at the very least, safety. They answer every call on the first ring, terrified that if they miss it, they will be forgotten. They reply to texts within seconds, the blue light of the screen reflecting in eyes that are desperate for connection, desperate for validation. They offer their time, their energy, and their undying loyalty to those who have done absolutely nothing to earn it. They believe that by saturating the world with their presence, they are proving their worth. They are mistaken. They are not proving their worth, they are liquidating it. Consider the nature of hyperinflation in a collapsing economy. When a central bank, driven by panic or incompetence, prints too much money. When it floods the market with currency, the value of that currency does not just drop, it collapses. It becomes worthless paper. We have seen this in history. People sweeping cash into the gutters, children playing with stacks of bills as if they were toy blocks, men burning fortunes for warmth because the paper is worth more as fuel than as a medium of exchange. It is basic economics. The more there is of something, the less it costs to acquire it. Why do you believe the laws of economics stop at your skin? Why do you believe that you are exempt from the iron laws of supply and demand? When a person offers themselves without cost, the world correctly prices them at zero. You are suffering from hyperinflation of the self. You have flooded the market with your attention. You have printed too much of your own presence, and now you are shocked that you are trading at pennies on the dollar. You are shocked that people take your time, use your energy, and give you nothing in return but indifference. But this is the market correcting itself. You have signaled that you are abundant, and therefore you are cheap. The human animal is a predator of value. It does not respect what is freely given, it respects what it must hunt for. This is an ancient biological imperative wired into the basal ganglia of every person you meet. We are designed to conserve energy. If a resource is abundant, if it is lying on the ground, we do not value it, we step over it. But if a resource is scarce, if it requires effort, risk, and time to acquire, we treasure it. We build walls around it, we tell stories about it. When an individual becomes suffocatingly abundant, they do not create gratitude, they create boredom. They gorge those around them until the very sight of them induces fatigue rather than excitement. This is the economics of social bankruptcy. When a person becomes background noise in their own life, they become the hum of a refrigerator, a machine that others only notice when it finally breaks. They are not the water in the desert well, which men will kill for. They are the tap water that is left running, wasted, taken for granted, and ignored. You must look at this archetype and ask yourself the uncomfortable question: am I the predator or am I the prey? Am I the prize or am I the distinct lack of options? It is time to stop being the flood. It is time to become the drought. To understand the mechanics of true power, one cannot look to the soft, sanitized advice of the modern era. We do not look to influencers who beg for attention with pathetic dances, nor do we listen to thought leaders who preach radical transparency and vulnerability. These are strategies for a safe world, and I promise you, the world is not safe. The world is a hierarchy of dominance, and you are currently volunteering for the bottom. To find the blueprint for weaponized absence, we must look to the masters of survival. We must travel back to the 17th century Spanish court, the rotting golden heart of an empire in decline. Enter Baltasar Gracián. Gracian was not a theoretical philosopher safely hidden in an ivory tower debating the ethics of good and evil. He was a Jesuit priest operating in a viper's nest, where a social error did not result in a loss of followers, but a loss of freedom, or perhaps a loss of your head. This was the era of the Inquisition, of constant surveillance, of betrayal as a recreational sport. In the court of King Philip IV, every smile concealed a dagger, and every compliment was a stress test designed to find a crack in your armor. In this suffocating environment, Gracian did the unthinkable. He wrote a manual not on how to be good, but on how to survive. His work, The Art of Worldly Wisdom, was so controversial that he published it under a pseudonym. Why? Because he exposed the dark machinery of human interaction. He stripped away the religious veneer of love thy neighbor and replaced it with a cold, tactical assessment of human nature. Gracian understood a fundamental, ugly truth that modern society tries to bury. Human beings are incapable of respecting what they can fully understand. He observed the kings, the generals, and the cardinals of his time. He watched how they rose, and more importantly, how they fell. He noticed a pattern. The great figures lost their aura the moment they became accessible. When a leader mingled too freely with the commoners, the mystery evaporated. When a genius explained his methods too clearly, the magic became mundane. He realized that familiarity is not the foundation of love, it is the architect of contempt. Gracian warned against the open book personality. He argued that when you allow others to see the bottom of your character, your fears, your routine, your constant availability, you become finite. You become measurable. And once a human being perceives you as finite, they can calculate your value, use you, and discard you. He wrote specifically on the strategic application of withdrawal, stating that one must use absence to create respect and esteem. Presence diminishes fame, while absence enlarges it. The absent one is regarded as a lion, the present one a mouse. This is not poetic advice, it is a survival algorithm. Gracian teaches that social value is not intrinsic to who you are, it is a derivative of distance. In the modern world, you are told to put yourself out there. You are told that visibility is currency. This is a lie sold to you by platforms that profit from your attention. The historical reality is that power resides in the unknown. The oracle at Delphi was powerful because she was hidden behind smoke and stone. The king was powerful because he was rarely seen. When a person becomes a fixture, always there, always nodding, always replying, they cease to be a person and become furniture. They become a utility. And utilities are only noticed when they malfunction. Gracian challenges us to reject the modern addiction to validation. He demands that we understand the economics of the soul. The more available the asset, the lower the market price. To reclaim your status, you must stop trying to be liked and start engineering your own scarcity. To master this art of absence, one must first perform a vivisection on human perception. We must strip away the polite fiction that human beings are rational, loving creatures. They are not. They are biological machines driven by ancient predatory algorithms. We must understand why the human brain is wired to devalue what is constant and worship what is hidden. This is not a matter of personality, it is a matter of neurochemistry and brutal economic law. First, we look at the death of novelty. The human brain is, above all else, an efficiency engine. Its primary goal is to conserve calories. It achieves this by filtering out consistent stimuli. This is the reticular activating system RAS in action. When you walk into a room with a ticking clock, you hear it loudly for the first 30 seconds. After 3 minutes, the sound vanishes. The clock has not stopped. Your brain has simply decided the sound is no longer relevant information. It has habituated. It filters the noise out to save processing power. This is the familiarity paradox. When an individual becomes predictable, when they are always present, always responsive, and always emotionally stable, the brain of the observer ceases to process them. They are filed away under known variables. In the context of social dynamics, this is fatal. The brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of desire and focus, only in response to prediction errors. We pay attention to things that surprise us. We desire things that are uncertain. Consider the open book personality. This is the man who shares every thought on social media, responds to every text within seconds, and wears his emotions on his sleeve. He believes he is building intimacy. In reality, he is removing all friction. He offers no resistance to the observer. Once the observer feels they have solved the person, mapped their behaviors, predicted their reactions, and measured their depth, the dopamine dries up. The fascination dies. The predictable man is safe, but he is never respected. He is merely part of the furniture. To the biological brain, a constant, non-threatening stimulus is indistinguishable from a dead object. To be reliable without being scarce is to volunteer for invisibility. Second, we must understand the projection of divinity. There is a glitch in human cognition that the Machiavellian strategist exploits with surgical precision. The mind abhors a vacuum. When information is missing, the human brain compulsively fills the gap. It cannot accept incomplete data. It constructs a narrative to close the loop. When a person withdraws their presence, they create a void in the minds of their peers. This is the imagination gap. When you are present, you are judged on reality, and reality is always disappointing. When you are standing in front of someone, they see the stain on your shirt. They hear the hesitation in your voice. They witness your mundane habits, your bad posture, your human frailty. The reality of a human being is finite, clumsy, and often boring. But when you are absent, you are judged on potential. In the absence of data, the observer projects their own fantasies onto the missing figure. If the figure was competent, absence makes them a genius. If the figure was attractive, absence makes them a god. If the figure was strong, absence makes them invincible. The mind polishes the memory, removing the flaws and amplifying the virtues. The observer falls in love with the idea of you, which is far more powerful than the reality of you. By withdrawing, the strategist forces others to interact, not with a flawed human, but with an idealized construct created by their own imagination. You become a screen upon which they project their desires. You gain the power of a ghost while still walking among the living. Consider the archetype of the hermit, the monk, or the reclusive artist. Why do we attribute such profound wisdom to them? Often, when they finally speak, their words are simple. But because the words came from silence, because they came from a place of scarcity, we weigh them as gold. The fool chatters all day, and even if he speaks the truth, it is lost in the noise. The wise man speaks once a year, and the world leans in to listen. This is the leverage of the void. By creating a vacuum, you force the world to lean toward you. Finally, we arrive at the absolute law of the universe. Value is a function of scarcity. We look to the economic concept of the Veblen good. In standard economics, as price rises, demand usually falls. But for a Veblen good like a luxury watch, a designer bag, or a high-status membership, as price rises, demand increases. The high cost is the feature. The barrier to entry creates the value. Most people position themselves as a commodity. They are tap water. Water is essential for biological survival. It is the most useful substance on earth, yet it is free. It is treated with indifference. It is wasted. Why? Because it is easy to get. It flows from the tap on command. The strategist positions themselves as a diamond. Diamonds are useless. They have no survival utility. You cannot eat them. You cannot drink them. Yet wars are fought over them. Men bankrupt themselves to buy them. Empires are built on them. Why? Because they are rare. Because they are difficult to extract from the earth. When you are always available, you are signaling that your time has no alternative use. You are signaling that you are unsold inventory. The market looks at you and thinks, if his time was valuable, he wouldn't be giving it to me for free. By restricting access, you trigger the fear of loss. Humans are twice as motivated by the fear of losing an asset as they are by the joy of gaining one. When you pull back, you force the buyer to bid higher. They must invest more emotional energy, more respect, and more patience to secure a moment of your time. This creates a sunk cost fallacy within their psyche. The more effort someone expends to reach you, the more they convince themselves that you are worth the effort. They rationalize the chase by assuming you must be important because they are working so hard to get your attention. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you are hard to reach, the world assumes you are busy with things of great consequence. If you are always waiting, the world assumes you have nothing else to do. The market never lies. If a person is always available, they are cheap. We leave the Spanish court and hold up the mirror to the modern cage you inhabit. The principles of human nature have not changed in 400 years, but the environment has become more hostile to your sovereignty. You live in an era designed to destroy mystery. Technology is the enemy of absence. The architecture of the modern internet, the read receipt, the active status, the timestamp is engineered to enforce constant availability. These tools are not designed for your convenience. They are designed to turn you into a digital serf. Silicon Valley has monetized your attention, and in doing so, it has tricked you into bankrupting your status. Consider the psychology of the instant reply. When a notification buzzes in your pocket, you feel a Pavlovian urge to respond. You believe that ignoring it is rude. You believe that immediate responsiveness shows you are efficient. This is the lie of the servant. In the hierarchy of power, the servant must answer immediately. The master answers when he chooses. By responding instantly to every digital summon, you are subconsciously signaling to the other person that you are sitting there waiting for them, that your reality is less engaging than their virtual intrusion, that your time has no other purpose than to serve their query. You have voluntarily placed yourself at the bottom of the dominance hierarchy. You have let a plastic device dictate your rhythm. This digital serfdom manifests most rotely in the archetype of the nice guy. The nice guy operates on a covert contract. If I am always there for you, if I never say no, if I am easy to access, you will have to love me. This is not kindness, it is manipulation, and it fails because it violates the law of scarcity. The nice guy is the tap water we discussed. He floods the market with his affection. He offers his validation to people who have treated him with disrespect. He stays on the phone for hours listening to problems he cannot solve. He is reliable, yet he is the first to be disrespected. Why? Because reliability without boundaries is not a virtue. It is a lack of spine. The nice guy believes his presence is a gift. The world perceives it as a burden. He is the pop-up ad that you cannot close. He is the noise that never stops. And because he never leaves, he never gives anyone the chance to miss him. Look at the difference between true power and the illusion of popularity. The influencer posts 5 times a day. They live stream their breakfast. They beg for likes. They are terrified of the algorithm forgetting them. They are slaves to presence. If they stop posting for a week, they panic. They are abundant, and therefore they are disposable. We consume them like fast food and move on. Now look at the sovereign. Think of the figures who actually move the world. They are rarely seen. They do not have public Twitter wars. They do not live stream. Satoshi Nakamoto created a financial revolution and vanished. His absence turned Bitcoin into a religion. Stanley Kubrick released a film once every decade. The world waited in breathless anticipation because the supply was so low. These figures understand that to be a god, one must be hidden. They operate from the shadows. They release their work, their decisions, or their words, and then they retreat. You are not Kubrick. You are not a king. But the physics of power apply to you all the same. Every time you post a mundane update, you chip away at your mystique. Every time you reply instantly to a disrespecting text, you lower your price. The digital world screams at you to be connected. The strategist knows that connection is the opposite of power. Power is the ability to disconnect. This addiction to connection is not merely a habit, it is a shackle. It is the reason you feel anxiety when your phone is in another room. It is the reason you check for messages even when you know none have arrived. You have been conditioned, like a rat in a Skinner box, to press the lever hoping for a pellet of validation. But the pellet is small, and the hunger is endless. To break free, you must understand that your availability is what keeps you trapped in the cycle of mediocrity. You are giving away your most precious resource, your attention, for free, and then wondering why you feel empty. Philosophy without execution is merely intellectual masturbation. We have diagnosed the disease. You are suffering from hyperinflation of the self. We have identified the cure, strategic absence. Now we must operate. This is not advice on playing hard to get. That is a game for children and teenagers. This is a protocol for recalibrating the power dynamic of your entire existence. This requires discipline, coldness, and the willingness to endure the anxiety of silence. The amateur makes the catastrophic error of disappearing overnight. He gets angry, blocks everyone, and hides in his room. This is not power. This is a tantrum. It signals emotional instability. It shows them they got under your skin. The strategist does not retreat, he fades. We utilize the psychological principle of the variable ratio schedule. This was discovered by B.F. Skinner in his operant conditioning chambers. When a rat presses a lever and gets food every time, it presses it only when hungry. When a rat presses a lever and gets food randomly, sometimes on the first press, sometimes on the 50th, it presses the lever compulsively until it collapses. Unpredictability creates obsession. You are currently operating at 100% availability. You will cut this to 33%. For every 3 messages you receive, you respond to 1. You do not explain the missed messages. You do not apologize. You never reply within the first hour of receipt unless it is a life or death emergency. You break the Pavlovian link between notification and response. You teach the sender that you are not sitting by the phone. You are out in the world doing things more important than staring at a screen. When you do reply, you must strip the needy energy from your text. Instead of the high energy, eager to please response, you offer the low energy, decisive response. By reducing the frequency and the emotional intensity of your communication, you force the other party to work harder to extract a reaction from you. You are turning the difficulty setting of your friendship from easy to hard. Once you initiate the fade, you will trigger a psychological reaction in your peers known as the extinction burst. When a vending machine swallows your money and doesn't give you a soda, you don't just walk away, you push the button harder, you shake the machine, You get angry. When you stop feeding people your attention, they will shake the machine. They will accuse you of being distant. They will ask if you are mad at them. They will try to bait you with drama to get a reaction. Do not break. This is the critical moment. If you apologize and return to your old availability, you have taught them that if they whine loud enough, you will fold. You must initiate the grey rock method. You must become as uninteresting and unreactive as a grey rock. When they bait you, asking if you think you're too good for them now, you give them nothing to latch onto. You say, "Not at all, just busy." You starve the conflict of oxygen. Eventually, the extinction burst ends and they accept the new reality. You are no longer a free utility. You are a prize to be earned. However, Gracian writes that the wise man does not make himself a constant brightness, for the continuous sun becomes a torture. But he also implies the inverse. When the sun returns after a long winter, it is worshipped. Withdrawal is not permanent. If you disappear forever, you are forgotten. The goal is to return at a higher valuation. You must use your time away to acquire a new attribute, a new win, or a new story. You do not withdraw to sit on the couch and play video games. You withdraw to build. When you re-enter the social circle, whether it is walking into the office or meeting friends for dinner, you must bring a new energy. You look sharper, you are rested, you have lost weight or gained muscle. The physical evidence of your absence proves you were doing something valuable. When they ask where you have been, you do not give a detailed itinerary. You offer a glimpse. You tell them you are building something new and it is taking up all your focus. You leave them with more questions than answers. This is the cycle of the Sunday. You shine, you set, and you rise again. This cycle keeps the market in a state of perpetual anticipation. Let us apply this to the specific cages you live in. In the workplace, you are likely the employee who says yes to everything. You are drowning in work, yet passed over for promotion because you are seen as a workhorse, not a leader. The leader delegates. The leader thinks. The workhorse carries. You must pivot. Stop volunteering. When a new task is floated in a meeting, stay silent. Let the silence become uncomfortable. Someone else will break it. When an email asks for a non-urgent task, do not reply immediately. Wait 4 hours. Your time begins to feel expensive. When you do speak, people listen because you are not constantly chattering. You create an aura of competence through selectivity. The person who speaks the least in a negotiation holds the most power. The person who is willing to walk away holds the most power. By being selectively absent, you signal that you are not dependent on the approval of the group. You signal that you have options. In a disrespectful friend group, you may be the jester or the organizer. You are the one who texts first. You are the one who herds the cats. Stop. Stop organizing. Stop chasing. Go dark in the group chat. When they finally reach out, and they will when they need something, decline the first invite. Tell them you can't make it. Give no excuse. They will realize the glue of the group is gone. If they want you back, they have to come to you. If they don't come to you, you have your answer. They were never friends, they were parasites. And you have just cured yourself of the infection. In the sexual marketplace, if you are always double texting, always explaining yourself, and always available for a date, even last minute, you are failing. Never accept a same-day date. If they ask you out for tonight, you are busy. Even if you are just staring at the wall, you are busy. You signal that your time is a scarce resource that must be booked in advance. High-value people have schedules. Low-value people have openings. The weapon is simple, but it is heavy. Most of you will not pick it up because you are addicted to the cheap validation of being a nice guy. Put down the need to be liked. Pick up the power of being missed. We have reached the end of the diagnosis. We have dissected the anatomy of your social failure. We have placed your behavior under the microscope and found the cancer. You have spent your life acting as a printing press of your own presence, flooding the market with your time, your attention, and your validation. You hoped that if you just gave enough of yourself, the world would finally return the investment. You now know the cold, economic truth. The market does not reward volume, it rewards value. And value is a function of scarcity. You cannot buy respect with availability. You can only purchase it with the currency of absence. But there is a deeper layer here. This is not just about getting people to text you back. This is not just about dating strategy or office politics. Those are trivialities. This is about the architecture of your soul. Why are you so available? Why do you answer immediately? Why do you terrify yourself with the thought of being unreachable? It is because you are afraid of the void. You are terrified that if you stop making noise, if you stop waving your hands, the world will forget you exist. You are terrified that without the constant reflection of others, you are nothing. Your availability is a trauma response. It is a frantic attempt to prove to yourself that you are real. The nice guy is not nice. He is terrified. He is a beggar holding out a cup, asking for validation to fill the hole where his self-respect should be. He is a slave to the reactions of others. And a slave, no matter how kind, is never respected. He is only used. To weaponize absence is to break these chains. It is to look at the silence and say, I am enough. When you withdraw, you are not running away. You are returning to the source of your power. Real power is not found in the crowd. It is not found in the likes, the comments, or the applause. Real power is found in the solitude. It was in the desert that the prophets found their voice. It was in the prison cell that the revolutionaries found their resolve. It was in the silence that the great thinkers found the truth. You must learn to close the door. When you implement the protocol of withdrawal, you are doing something dangerous. You are telling the world that you do not need it. You are signaling that you possess a source of value that is internal, not external. This will make people uncomfortable. It will make them anxious. It will make them chase you. But more importantly, it will force you to face yourself. If you cannot sit in a room alone for an hour without checking your phone, you are not free. You are an addict. And until you break that addiction, you will never command authority. You will only beg for it. Baltasar Gracián wrote his words in a court full of snakes, knowing that one wrong move meant death. He knew that the most dangerous man in the room was the one nobody could read. The one who held his cards against his chest. The one whose silence was louder than the shouting of the fools. Be that man. Audit your life tonight. Look at the digital leash around your neck. Look at the friends who treat your time as an infinite resource. Look at the energy you are hemorrhaging into a void that gives nothing back. Cut the feed. Stop being the tap water that flows for anyone who turns the handle. Become the diamond buried in the earth, cold, hard, and hidden. Make them dig for you. The world does not reward the harmless. It devours them. The world rewards the rare. Wake up. Let us go deeper into the pathology of your condition, because simply telling you to stop is rarely enough. We must understand the mechanism of the trap you have built for yourself. You see, the modern world is a panopticon, a concept introduced by the philosopher Jeremy Bentham and later expanded by Michel Foucault. The panopticon is a prison design where a single watchman can observe all inmates, but the inmates cannot tell when they are being watched. Because they might be watched at any moment, they must regulate their behavior constantly. Social media is the digital panopticon, the online status, the last seen timestamp, the read receipt. These are the eyes of the watchman. You regulate your behavior, you answer quickly, you post carefully, because you feel the weight of invisible eyes upon you. You are performing for an audience that isn't even paying admission. You have become your own jailer. The sovereign individual shatters the panopticon. He does not care if he is being watched, or he ensures he cannot be watched at all. He creates opaque walls around his life. This opacity is what creates charisma. Charisma, at its core, is a mixture of power and warmth. But crucially, it requires a gap in information. If I know everything about you, what you ate for breakfast, your insecurities, your schedule, I cannot project greatness onto you. You become human, all too human. But if there is a gap, if there is a part of your life that remains a closed room, the human mind fills that room with treasure. We assume the secret is valuable because you are guarding it. Think of the most captivating people in history, or even in fiction. Jay Gatsby was fascinating because nobody knew where his money came from. Thomas Shelby in Peaky Blinders is compelling because he never reveals his full plan until the trap is sprung. They hold the center of gravity because they hold the information. You, on the other hand, are leaking information like a sieve. You are telling the world your plans before you execute them, seeking validation for things you haven't even done yet. This dissipates the energy. When you talk about a goal, your brain releases a premature hit of dopamine, tricking you into feeling like you've already accomplished it. This kills your drive. The master keeps his counsel. He works in the dark, and his results are the only announcement he needs. This applies to your emotional state as well. The Stoics understood that a man who cannot control his reaction to the world is a slave to the world. When you react instantly to a text, an insult, or a piece of news, you are demonstrating that your internal state is easily hijacked by external forces. You are a leaf in the wind. The rock does not move when the wind blows. When you delay your response, when you withhold your reaction, you demonstrate emotional sovereignty. You show that there is a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap lies your freedom. Let's discuss the law of least effort in social dynamics. In any interaction, the person who exerts the least amount of effort to maintain the connection is the one with the higher status. This is not about being lazy. It is about efficiency. When you write a paragraph to explain yourself to someone who sent you a 3-word text, you have lost the frame. You are investing more resources than they are. You are the buyer, they are the seller. You must learn to mirror the investment of others and then subtract 10%. If they take an hour to reply, you take an hour and 10 minutes. If they write a sentence, you write a phrase. This is not petty, this is calibration. You are training them to understand the exchange rate of your attention. The tragedy of the nice guy is that he believes his overinvestment is a form of love. He thinks, I am giving so much, surely they will see how good I am. But the recipient does not see goodness, they see desperation, they see a bad deal. If someone tries to sell you a Ferrari for $5, you don't think, what a generous man. You think, what is wrong with the engine? Is it stolen? When you give your time away for free, people assume it is stolen goods. They assume it has no value. You must raise the price. And what of the fear? We must address the fear of missing out, FOMO. It is the modern plague. You are terrified that if you disconnect, the world will move on without you. Let me tell you a secret. The world is moving on without you anyway. The only difference is whether you are watching it happen on a screen, paralyzed, or whether you are out in the reality, building something that forces the world to stop and look at you. The news cycle is a fire hose of anxiety designed to keep you weak. The social feed is a carousel of comparison designed to keep you envious. When you step away, when you embrace JOMO, the joy of missing out, you reclaim your mental bandwidth. You realize that 99% of the urgent information you consume is noise. It is irrelevant to your mission. The masters of the universe operate on a need-to-know basis. They do not consume, they create. While you are scrolling, they are planning. While you are reacting, they are executing. To join their ranks, you must become a ghost to the noise and a god to your craft. Understand the concept of strategic unpredictability. In game theory, if your opponent knows your next move, you will lose. If you are always available at 7 p.m., you are predictable. If you always say yes to the Friday drink, you are predictable. Predictability is the precursor to irrelevance. You must introduce chaos into the system. Sometimes you answer immediately. Sometimes you don't answer for a day. Sometimes you are warm. Sometimes you are cold. This variance keeps the people around you on their toes. It forces them to pay attention. It wakes them up from the slumber of taking you for granted. You are no longer the steady background hum. You are the lightning storm, dangerous, beautiful, and impossible to control. This brings us back to the concept of the Veblen good. We talked about diamonds, but let's talk about access. Access to a king is limited. Access to a CEO is limited. Access to a celebrity is limited. Why? Because their time is their most valuable asset. If you want to be treated like a king, you must guard your time like the crown jewels. You must build a gatekeeper. Even if that gatekeeper is just your own discipline, you must learn the power of the word no. No is a complete sentence. It does not require justification. It does not require an apology. When you say no without explaining yourself, you subvert the expectation that you owe the world your compliance. The nice guy cannot say no because he fears conflict. The sovereign man welcomes conflict because he knows it is the forge of respect. When you set a boundary, you are teaching people how to treat you. If you have no boundaries, you are a public park open to everyone, walked on by everyone, and filled with trash. If you have boundaries, you are a fortress. Let's visualize the protocol of withdrawal in a practical, day-to-day scenario. You are at work. A colleague comes to your desk to gossip, to waste time. The old, you would smile, listen, and nod, terrified of being rude. The new you continues typing. You do not make eye contact immediately. You finish your sentence. Then you look up with a neutral expression and say, "I have 5 minutes. What do you need?" You have set a frame. You have established scarcity. The colleague will feel the shift. They will get to the point. And they will leave with a newfound respect for your time. You are dating someone. They text you at 10 p.m. on a Friday. You up? Want to come over? The old you would jump in the car. The new you sees the text and puts the phone away. You are not a convenience store. You are not open 24/7. You reply the next morning, "Was asleep, busy today." You have signaled that your sleep is more important than their boredom. You have signaled that you have a life that does not revolve around waiting for their crumbs. This is how you flip the script. This is how you become the prize. But be warned, this path is lonely at first. When you stop carrying the dead weight of one-sided relationships, you will feel lighter, but you will also feel the silence. The parasites will fall away when they realize there is no more blood to suck. The users will disappear when the utility is gone. Let them go. Do not mourn the loss of people who only loved you for your compliance. You are clearing the ground for something better. You are making space for people who respect strength, not weakness. The ultimate goal of this transformation is not just social manipulation, it is self-actualization. When you are constantly available to others, you are never available to yourself. You cannot hear your own thoughts because the noise of the world is too loud. By withdrawing, you create a sanctuary. In that sanctuary, you can find out who you really are. What do you want? What do you believe? What are you willing to die for? These questions can only be answered in the quiet. The cold awakening is not for everyone. Most people will listen to this, nod their heads, and go right back to checking their notifications. They are addicted to their own servitude. But a few of you, the rare few, will understand that this is the key to the cage. You will turn off the phone. You will look at the people around you and realize you have been playing a game you cannot win. And you will stop playing. You will start building. You will start disappearing. You will become the enigma. And one day, you will walk back into the room and the room will go silent. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence has become so heavy, so dense with value, that it commands gravity. This is the path of the drought. This is the way of the shadow. Do not fear the darkness. It is where the stars shine. Audit your life. Right now. Look at your last 10 text messages. How many were instant replies? How many were apologies? How many were you chasing someone who was walking away? Delete the threads. Unfollow the noise. Step into the cold. It is time to freeze out the mediocrity. It is time to burn the bridges that lead back to your weakness. The world is waiting for you to show it who you are, but it cannot see you if you are always standing in the light, waving your arms like a desperate child. Step back into the dark. Let them wander. Let them hunt. Let them earn the privilege of your existence. But do not mistake this silence for peace. Do not mistake this absence for passivity. The silence I speak of is not the silence of an empty church. It is the silence of a padded cell. It is the silence of the predator stopping its breath before the final lunge. It is kinetic. It is alive with terrible potential. And for the first few days, it will feel less like liberation and more like psychological asphyxiation. You must understand the brutal mechanics of your own addiction. You are a junkie, and validation is your heroin. When you stop feeding the world your constant energy, the world stops feeding you its cheap hits of dopamine. You will check your phone, and the screen will be black, a dark mirror reflecting your own sudden irrelevance. In this vacuum, your mind will scream. The silence will amplify your deepest insecurities. It will whisper that you are fading away, that you are forgotten, that you do not exist if you are not perceived. This is the ego dying. It is a painful, necessary psychic amputation. Let it die. The modern ego is a parasite that feeds on the approval of others to sustain its bloated form. You are starving the parasite. You are watching it wither. The pain you feel is not loss. It is the breaking of a fever. In this agonizing void, you will be forced to confront the entity that lives beneath the mask. You will find that without the constant distraction of digital noise, without the ability to perform for an audience, you are hollow. You have no mission, no code, no center of gravity. This realization is meant to break you, because only when the false self is shattered can the true self, the cold, autonomous core, begin to solidify. You cannot build a fortress on a swamp. You must dredge the mud until you hit bedrock. Now, let us translate this internal surgery into external warfare. Let us move to the art of verbal silence. In conversation, you have been conditioned to act as the social lubricant. When a pause creates tension, you rush to fill it with nervous chatter, with self-deprecating humor, with questions you do not care about, purely to comfort the other person. You sacrifice your status to lower their anxiety. Stop. The anxiety is your greatest weapon. From this moment on, you will practice the psychic tourniquet. When someone asks you a question, especially a probing one, or when they finish speaking and look to you for validation, you do not answer immediately. You wait. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. You hold eye contact, not with aggression, but with a dead, clinical neutrality. You let the silence hang in the air like the smell of gas in a closed room. In those 3 seconds, you are inducing a micro-panic. The human animal is terrified of silence in conversation because silence implies judgment. It implies a glitch in the social matrix. By remaining silent, you become the judge. By speaking constantly, you become the defendant. Why are you always defending your existence? The sovereign does not explain. He commands or he remains silent. In that gap, their brain will scramble to resolve the tension. They will start talking again, babbling, revealing secrets, negotiating against themselves just to make the silence stop. You are suffocating them with air. You must also master the art of the non-reaction. We live in an outrage economy designed to harvest your emotional reflexes. Everyone is offended. Everyone is shocked. When you react emotionally to inputs, you are a puppet with visible strings. If I know what makes you angry, I own you. If I know what makes you crave approval, I own you. You are a slave to my inputs. The cold awakening demands you sever these strings. When someone insults you, you do not get angry. Anger is engagement. You look at them with the mild curiosity of a pathologist examining a cancerous tissue sample. You say nothing. Or perhaps you utter a single, flat word, fascinating. This non-reaction is psychically devastating to the aggressor. They wanted a fight. They wanted the catharsis of dragging you into the mud. By refusing to engage, you deny them their reality. You signal that their emotional storms are merely weather patterns to you, noisy, transient, and ultimately irrelevant. It is the strategy of the monolith against the monkey. Let us deepen the concept of the black hole. In astrophysics, a black hole is an object of such immense gravity that it consumes everything, even light. In social dynamics, you must invert your polarity. Most people are dying stars, desperately burning their fuel, pushing energy outward, trying to shine bright enough to be noticed before they enter oblivion. They burn out. You must do the opposite. You stop pushing energy out, you collapse inward, you become dense with concealed purpose. When you stop seeking validation, you create a vacuum in the social fabric. Nature abhors a vacuum. People, driven by their own emptiness, will naturally gravitate toward the person who seems complete unto themselves. They will pour their energy into you, trying to fill the void you have created. They will perform for you. They will offer you their secrets, their loyalty, their bodies, just to see a flicker of reaction in your eyes. You accept these offerings with the indifference of an ancient idol. You give a slight nod. You continue on your path. You do not mirror their desperation. You do not repay their energy with your own. You hold the frame of the observer. You become the screen onto which they project their fantasies, and because you give them nothing back, the projection only grows stronger. But to maintain this gravitational field, your silence cannot be empty. A hollow vessel is just fragile. A loaded vessel is dangerous. This brings us to the concept of the shadow work. While you are silent, while you are offline, you must be descending into your own underworld. You must be working with a ferocity that borders on madness. The goal is to create a reveal that functions as psychological shock and awe. Think of the archetype of the revenant, the one who returns from the dead. If you disappear for 3 months and return exactly the same, you are merely unreliable. But if you disappear into the shadows and return transformed with a hardened physique, a new financial reality, a mastery of a new lethal skill, you become a legend. Your absence is retroactively justified. They realize you weren't ignoring them, you were transcending them. This protects you from social backlash. Results are the ultimate silencer. When you are undeniably winning, your silence is interpreted as supreme focus. When you are stagnant, your silence is interpreted as weakness. Therefore, you have no choice. You must win, or you must remain hidden until you do. We must go deeper into the paranoia of power. The information diet is too soft a term. Let us call it counter-espionage. You must stop leaking the blueprints of your life to potential saboteurs. The ancient texts warn not to cast pearls before swine, lest they trample them and turn to tear you to pieces. This is biological truth. When you tell a mediocre person your grand ambitions, you are not sharing, you are threatening their worldview. Their envy is a reflex. They will attack you with doubt. They will project their own cowardice onto you. They will subconsciously try to cripple you because your ascent highlights their own descent. Stop handing them the knife. Information is ammunition. Keep your powder dry. If you are building an empire, tell no one until the walls are high enough to repel an attack. If you are forging a new alliance, keep it secret until it is cemented. The alchemical process of change requires a hermetically sealed vessel. If you open the lid too early to show off the process, the pressure escapes and the gold is never made. There is a specific technique for deflecting inquiry. The grey fog. When prying minds try to extract information, you do not lie, for lying requires too much energy to maintain. Instead, you offer vapor. What are you working on? Oh, the usual chaos, keeping the plate spinning. You know how it is. Who are you seeing? I'm focused on stabilization right now. It's a building phase. You give answerless answers. You are polite, calm, and utterly opaque. You become a smooth obsidian wall with no handholds for gossip or judgment. This infuriates the social parasites. It starves them. They cannot attack what they cannot locate. They cannot sabotage a plan they do not know exists. By the time they realize what you have built in the dark, it will be too late to stop it. Now, we must excise the survivor's guilt. As you execute these protocols, as you pull away from the herd, you will feel a phantom pain. You have been programmed since birth by school, church, and media to be a team player, to sacrifice for the community. Look at the community. Look closely at the herd. Are they free? Are they sovereign? Or are they anxious, debt-ridden, medicated, and terrified? Why do you feel guilty for climbing out of a mass grave? You must kill the people-pleaser inside you with premeditated brutality. That entity is not your conscience. It is a slave subroutine implanted in you as a child to ensure obedience. You are no longer a child. The ability to disappoint others without internal collapse is a superpower. Read that again. The ability to tolerate being the villain in someone else's story is the mark of the sovereign. I cannot help you. I will not be there. No, they will be disappointed. They may become enraged. Let them. Their emotions are their own turbulent oceans to navigate. You are not the captain of their ship. You are not the emotional janitor for your friend group. You are the architect of your own fate. And sometimes architecture requires the demolition of rickety structures that lean on you for support. We must also talk about the cold calculus of reputation. True reputation is not built on what you say you will do. It is built on the terrifying consistency of what you don't do. You don't gossip because you don't care enough about their lives. You don't complain because you are too busy solving. You don't break your word because your word is currency. And you don't show up just because you were invited. When you are scarce, your endorsement becomes gold. If you like everything, your taste is worthless. If you rarely compliment, your praise is a coronation. If you are rarely seen, your presence is an event. Think of the apex predator archetype. The lion does not roar constantly, it sleeps, it watches, it is terrifyingly still. But when it moves, the entire savannah shifts its behavior. It operates on a strict code of reciprocity, not charity. You must adopt this code. The ledger must balance. I treat you as a reflection of how you treat me. If someone takes 3 days to reply to a time-sensitive message, you do not get angry. You do not demand an explanation. You simply recategorize them in your internal database. They are now a low-priority asset. You match their energy precisely, then subtract 10%. This is not pettiness, it is physics. You cannot continuously pump high energy into a dead system without bankrupting your own soul. Conservation of energy is the law. Stop violating it in the name of being nice. And finally, the most dangerous battlefield, the realm of romantic power. This is where the discipline usually breaks, where the strongest men dissolve into puddles of need. In any romantic dynamic, the law of least interest applies. The one who is most willing to walk away holds all the power. This is a cruel truth, but it is absolute. This does not mean you cannot love. It means you must love from a position of sovereignty, not dependence. When you make another person your entire world, you place a crushing, unbearable weight on their shoulders. You are unconsciously saying, I am empty. Fill me. Eventually, they will resent the burden and despise the weakness. But when you have your own mission, your own fortified silence, your own inescapable purpose, you come to them as an emperor meeting an empress, not a starving man meeting a chef. You communicate subtextually, I desire you intensely, but I do not need you to survive. This is the most intoxicating signal a human being can send. It is the signal of choice, not desperation. To reach this state, you must viscerally understand your own capacity for destruction. You must be able to visualize the burn note. Practice this mental exercise in the darkest hours of the night. Imagine, right now, that the person you love most leaves you. Imagine your social circle evaporates. Imagine you are stripped bare. Could you survive it? Could you stand in that howling wilderness alone and rebuild? If the answer is no, you are fragile. You are dependent, and dependents are eventually discarded. You must build your inner citadel so strongly that the answer is a terrifying yes. You must be anti-fragile, a creature that does not just endure chaos, but gets stronger through it. This inner citadel is built brick by brick with silence. Every time you hold your tongue when you want to beg, you lay a brick. Every time you ignore a notification that triggers your anxiety, you reinforce the mortar. Every time you choose the cold solitude of work over the warm distraction of the crowd, you raise a tower. Eventually, you will sit inside a fortress of your own making. The arrows of the world will bounce off your walls. The noise of the desperate crowd will be a distant hum beneath you. You will sit in the center, calm, collected, and dangerous. From this position of invulnerability, you can open the gates when you choose. You can let people in on your terms and expel them if they violate your code. This is freedom. Freedom is not the ability to do what you want. Freedom is the ability to withstand what they want. So, here is your initiation. A 24-hour psychological stress test. Go dark. Completely. Turn off read receipts. Turn off activity status. Put your phone in a drawer in another room. Do not post. Do not comment. Do not consume. If someone texts you, do not reply. Let it sit. Feel the anxiety rising in your chest like bile. Observe it. It is just a sensation, a withdrawal symptom from the drug of validation. It will not kill you. Go to the gym and train until you cannot think. Read something ancient. Sit in a chair and stare at a wall for an hour and confront the silence. When you finally reconnect, do not apologize. Do not explain. Do not say, "Sorry, I was offline." You resume life on your terms. You will see that the world did not end, but you will feel a shift. You will feel the flicker of a new, cold power. You controlled the flow. You controlled the access. That flicker is the spark. Fan it with more silence, feed it with more absence, until it becomes a fire that burns away the weakness and leaves only the iron. This path is the cold awakening. It is the shock of being ripped from the womb of comforting lies into the harsh air of reality. It hurts. Good. It means you are finally alive. Do not go back to sleep. The warm bed of mediocrity is calling you. It wants you soft. It wants you available. It wants you to be prey. The wolf is cold. The wolf is hungry. But the wolf is free. Decide what you are. The silence starts now.